Deepinder Goyal was awful at school. I'm talking bottom of his class in the 8th standard, 35th out of 36 students. At one point, his dad even spoke with the school principal to try to get his marks bumped up. A teacher approached him in the hall one day and gave him the answers to the exam, and so his score went up from 35th to 3rd. All of a sudden, people were treating him with respect and admiration, and he liked that feeling. Who wouldn't? But of course, he'd gotten this admiration through cheating. It wasn't sustainable, and so in an effort to maintain these grades, he stole some money from his dad and went around town trying to bribe the printers in his hometown of Buxar in Punjab to give him the answers for the next semester's exam. They did not. In the 10th standard, Deepinder came to know about IITs. He had been planning to follow in his brother's footsteps to become a doctor, but his brother told him that medical school took too long. And so as an alternative, he decided to try for IITs instead. He moved from Buxar to Chandigarh and spent his last 2 years of high school preparing to get into IIT Delhi, which miraculously he was accepted into. Looking back many years later, Deepinder would describe getting into IIT Delhi as a fluke. However, this fluke would prove to be life-changing. And not only that, it would also change the way that people here in India think about food. See, it was towards the end of Deepinder's 5 years at IIT Delhi when one night he found himself ordering a pizza from Domino's and realized how arduous the process was. Calling the restaurant to order instead of being able to order online, spelling out his address, coordinating with the delivery driver, it was all very annoying and slow and antiquated, but it was also the only way that people could order food in India back then. See, Domino's was one of the few restaurants in India at the time with a website. Now, this website wasn't a .in website, let me be clear, but the items on the menu were more or less the same worldwide. So Deepinder could decide what he wanted to eat, and then he could call up a local Domino's restaurant to actually place his order. And this process was not possible with a majority of Indian restaurants, because most of them didn't have a website or an online menu. If Deepinder wanted to order from such a restaurant, he would either need to call the restaurant and ask them to describe their menu over the phone, or physically visit the restaurant and make some kind of copy of the menu himself, neither of which were ideal. Now, most of us, when we have these kinds of realizations, when we identify an opportunity to disrupt or innovate, let's be honest, we don't act on it. For some of us, it might be a lack of confidence. Maybe we just don't believe in our own abilities as entrepreneurs. We don't think that we're going to succeed. For others, it might be a lack of money. Maybe we just don't have the financial resources to start up. But for Deepinder, well, it was his villagers. Let me explain. See, Deepinder was obsessed with a computer game called Age of Empires, where you grow a small band of villagers into an empire by collecting and efficiently allocating resources, conquering your opponents, and strategically positioning your towns on the map. Now, one could argue that this RTS game essentially prepared Deepinder's mind for the high-speed strategic thinking that would later be required of him as a CEO. But in 2005, as a full-time student and as an IITian who also happened to be scoring in the lowest 10% of his class, well, these virtual conquests weren't doing him any favors in the real world. And if he took on the extra responsibility of building a startup, he might not even be able to pass out of college. So instead, he ate his Domino's pizza, he shelved his startup idea, and he went to bed. Nothing extraordinary. In fact, if it weren't for his bad grades, for the fact that he was scoring so low, that pizza may have been the beginning and end of his entrepreneurial journey. His story may have ended up going in a completely different direction. See, once you finish IIT, the normal course of action is to start applying for jobs. Some students get offers before they've even passed out, others soon after, but Deepinder, well, his grades were awful. And as a result, most of the companies he was applying to work at, the ones that he was actually excited to work for, were rejecting his applications. And yes, he could have lowered his expectations and taken a position at a less than ideal company, but that's when Deepinder had his light bulb moment. Or maybe it was his pizza slice moment. He was in a unique phase in his life between school and work, and he saw this as an opportunity to become an entrepreneur, to start his own company, a company that would bring Indian restaurants online. He did some thinking and settled on a business model: one-time payment website development. Things didn't go as planned. He managed to convince 3 or 4 restaurants to hire him to build their website, and he got paid about 20 to 25,000 rupees per site, but Deepinder quickly realized that his services were a novelty. Having a website was nice, but it wasn't a game changer because nobody knew that these websites existed. Companies like Domino's or Pizza Hut or McDonald's, international QSR behemoths, were known. They didn't need to be discovered by consumers. They didn't need to publicize their websites because people were already searching for them. But for local restaurants, SME restaurants, non-franchised restaurants, well, things were different for them. It didn't matter how beautifully designed or well-organized their website was, or that their menu was available online, because customers didn't know that their website existed. Upon realizing that his startup wasn't doing the one thing that it needed to in order to succeed, adding value, Deepinder decided to drop it. That first iteration, that hopeful yet naive attempt, became a part of that famous statistic: 9 out of 10 startups fail. And Deepinder's was one of them. Without a business to run, he started looking for jobs again. He was called in for an interview at a Gurugram-based consultancy firm called Bain & Company, and he spoke about his startup during that interview. Recounting the experience later in life, Deepinder said that he probably wouldn't have gotten the job at Bain if he wasn't a startup founder. They hired him because of his self-starter attitude, because of his work ethic and his creative mind. They recognized that an IIT-educated entrepreneur, even though his startup had failed, was an asset to their firm. He joined Bain & Company in January of 2006, but food was still on his mind. 3 months after joining the firm, Deepinder launched Foodlet. This new startup wasn't a website development company like his first venture. No, Foodlet.com was the website. A centralized platform where foodies could discover restaurants using the website's restaurant finder feature, pick food items off of the restaurant's scanned menu, and then place an order online on the Foodlet website and have it delivered to them. The platform was way ahead of its time, but it struggled with one key thing: discoverability. Nobody knew that Foodlet existed, and this was a huge problem. Foodlet was launched in March of 2006, but because of his full-time job at Bain, by January of 2007, more than 9 months after the platform was launched, out of Delhi's thousands of restaurants, Deepinder had only found enough time to go and scan 52 of their menus. He had hoped that after Foodlet gained some traction, restaurants would be self-scanning menus, uploading them to the site and joining Foodlet on their own accord. But that wasn't happening because there weren't enough menus on the platform to attract new users. No users, no menu. No menu, no users. It was a classic chicken and egg problem. And Deepinder didn't have the time or the money to solve it. So once again, he shut it down. Of course, that didn't mean that he was finished with the idea. He just needed to dial down the scope. The project was too big for him. He couldn't handle all of Delhi, so instead, he decided to focus on just his office's canteen. He figured if he could build a popular platform on his company's intranet, then maybe he'd be able to scale it up and find success on the internet. So he got to work building this prototype, a library of all of the menus of all of the restaurants, cafes, and messes in and around his office. And the response he got was very positive. Employees were grateful to be able to pick a place to eat and figure out what they wanted to order, all from the comfort of their desk. It was a huge time saver for them. And as traction on this intranet platform grew, so too did Deepinder's confidence. He had a feeling that if he were to relaunch Foodlet's public www website 1 whole year after shutting it down, that it would be successful. And so that's exactly what he did. On Deepinder's birthday, the 26th of January of 2008, Foodlet.in saw its public debut. So .in was a mistake. It made the website more difficult to find, and it also firmly rooted the platform in India without leaving much room for future international expansion. But the website's domain suffix wasn't the only thing that was holding it back. That chicken and egg problem that Foodlet.com had faced was still a problem for Foodlet.in. And Deepinder tried to solve this by driving around Delhi with his wife and his wife's sister, collecting menus from restaurants, scanning them, and putting them up on the website. But the returns on this time and energy investment were a bit underwhelming. In a desperate attempt to boost the platform's performance, Deepinder consulted with a numerologist, thinking that perhaps Foodlet wasn't the right name for his startup. And so, Foodlet became Foodiebay, a name that he felt would be easy to recognize given the popularity of eBay. But by July of 2008, after months of hustling, the platform was only seeing about 24 visitors a day. And Deepinder couldn't figure out why. Was he just too early? Were there not enough menus on the platform? Or maybe he needed to advertise Foodiebay's existence somehow. Maybe word-of-mouth marketing wasn't enough. He wasn't sure. The way forward was unclear. Deepinder was in the trough of sorrow, and it would take a very special person to pull him out of it.